Welcome back to the Heart Sutra channel.
It's good to be back.
It's great to have you with us again as we keep going with the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
In our last couple of sessions, we were working through chapter 7 and 8.
Right.
And we kind of got into some pretty heavy concepts, talk about Maya, that illusion that kind of, hides our true nature.
Yeah.
And the three gunas.
Right.
And those qualities that shape our actions and perceptions.
Yeah. It's always amazing to me how these ancient ideas,
I know.
so thousands of years later, still really resonate with us.
Absolutely. I mean, take the gunas, for example.
Yeah.
We've all had those days where everything's just flowing, you're calm and clear-headed.
Yeah.
That's sattva, right?
Sattva shining through.
But then there are those times when we're restless, driven maybe a little too ambitious.
Yes.
That's rajas in the driver's seat.
Absolutely.
And let's not forget those mornings when you just can't seem to get out of bed.
Oh, yeah.
Tamas.
Big time. Yeah. It's fascinating how the Gita provides this framework for understanding these forces that are always at play within us.
Totally. So this brings us to chapter 9.
Oh,
It's called The Most Confidential Knowledge.
interesting title.
I know. What's so secretive about this? What makes it so special?
Well, this chapter really dives into the very nature of the divine and how we can connect with it.
Okay.
It's considered confidential, I guess, because it's thought that these are deep truths that, might not be as easily grasped without the proper context.
Right. So right off the bat, we get this incredible verse in text 6.
Okay.
It says, unborn, although being so without deterioration, the body of all those who are born the Supreme Lord, although being so in my transcendent form, being so situated, I do incarnate by my internal energy.
Wow.
I mean, how do we even begin to wrap our heads around that? The divine is both unborn and incarnating.
Yeah, it's a paradox for sure. But the commentary or the purport really helps us to understand this. The word that's often translated as creation actually refers more to manifestation.
Okay.
So the divine isn't being created in the sense that we usually think of it,
Right.
but it's more about revealing itself,
Okay.
becoming perceptible to us in the material world.
Oh, so it's like the divine is stepping onto the stage,
Yeah,
becoming visible
exactly.
in a form we can relate to.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this manifestation happens in cycles, according to this concept of the yugas.
Right.
These vast cosmic epochs.
Yeah.
The idea is that the divine appears when dharma declines,
When righteousness.
when righteousness starts to decline in the world.
So it's like a cosmic reset button.
Yeah, in a sense.
But if we look around today,
Yeah,
what does declining dharma look like in our modern world?
that is a great question.
Yeah.
And it's one that I think each of us really needs to ponder.
Right
We
on.
see so much conflict,
Yeah.
so much greed, and a disconnect from these spiritual values.
Yeah.
So maybe chapter 9 holds some clues for navigating these times.
I'm starting to see why this is confidential knowledge.
Yeah,
This is feeling relevant right now.
for sure.
Okay, let's keep going.
All right.
Now, text 18 really threw me for a loop.
Okay.
It says, a self-realized man has no purpose to fulfill in the discharge of his prescribed duties, nor has he any reason not to perform such work, nor has he any need to depend on any other living being. Wait a minute. If someone is self-realized, why even bother doing anything?
Right?
Doesn't that seem counterintuitive?
I can see why you'd think that.
Yeah.
But the key here is understanding that a self-realized person
Yeah.
isn't motivated by personal gain or ambition.
Okay.
Their actions come from a much deeper understanding of dharma,
Right.
duty, you could say, and a genuine desire to contribute to the well-being of all.
So it's not about being passive or withdrawing from the world,
Right.
but acting from a place of pure intention
Exactly.
without the strings of ego attached.
Yes, and this is where we come to the concept of karma yoga.
Okay.
Acting without attachment to the fruits of our actions.
Right. It's like we talked about before with the gunas shifting away from rajas.
Yeah.
That desire for results and moving more towards a sattvic approach.
Absolutely.
That resonates with me. I know in my own life, I get so caught up in wanting specific outcomes that I sometimes forget to enjoy the process.
Right.
It's like constantly chasing that next thing
Yeah.
instead of being present.
We all struggle with that.
Yeah.
Think about how much lighter our lives could be if we could detach from those expectations
Yeah.
and just focus on doing our best, offshoring our actions without needing a specific return.
So even in our everyday lives, even amidst all the deadlines and the pressures, we can practice karma yoga. How can we apply these principles?
Well, I think a good place to start is examining our motivations.
Okay.
Why are we doing what we're doing? Are we fueled by ego?
Right.
By fear?
Yeah.
Or are we acting from a deeper sense of purpose?
Right. The Gita encourages us to reflect on this,
right,
to become more aware of the forces that are driving our choices.
It's about becoming more conscious.
Yes.
More intentional with our actions.
Yeah.
It's almost like a mindfulness practice, but applied to our daily lives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when we can shift our focus from what's in it for me
right,
to how can I contribute,
yeah,
something really interesting starts to happen.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this confidential knowledge is starting to unfold.
Good.
But there's so much more to explore in this chapter.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm particularly intrigued by what Krishna says about different paths to self-realization.
Right.
And this whole idea of the universal form.
Oh, yes. Things are about to get really fascinating.
Okay.
But I think we need to take a quick break.
All right.
Stay tuned, and we'll dive into those aspects of Chapter 9 right after this.
And we're back.
Yes.
Still going strong with Chapter 9 of the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
Before the break, we were talking about karma yoga.
Right. And how a self-realized person acts out of dharma.
Yes.
Now, the Gita also describes different paths to self-realization.
Mm-hmm.
And Lord Krishna highlights bhakti yoga.
The path of devotion.
Right in this chapter.
Yeah.
So this is where it starts to get pretty interesting, because Krishna explains that even those who worship other deities are ultimately worshiping him,
right,
just without that full understanding.
Yes.
So let's look at text 23.
All right.
It says, whatever a man may sacrifice to other gods, O son of Kunti, is really meant for me alone, but it is offered without true understanding.
Yeah.
And this can be a bit confusing at first.
Yeah.
It almost sounds like Krishna is saying all paths are the same.
Right.
Or that it doesn't matter who you worship.
Yeah, it's not quite that simple.
Right.
The key phrase here is without true understanding.
Right.
Krishna isn't saying that all paths are equal in terms of their efficacy
But
or that the object of worship doesn't matter.
Right.
It's more about recognizing the underlying unity of the divine.
Oh, okay.
Think of it like this.
Okay.
Just as different rivers all flow to the same ocean, different forms of worship can lead to that same source.
Okay, so it's not about rejecting other deities,
Right.
but understanding their relationship to the Supreme.
Exactly.
Got it.
It's about deepening our understanding of this divine nature, recognizing its presence in all things.
Yeah, and that's what I love about the Gita.
Yeah.
It's not a one-size-fits-all.
Right.
It offers all these different perspectives on spirituality.
It does.
So there's something here for everyone, regardless of background or beliefs.
It's truly timeless in that way.
Okay, so we've talked about the divine incarnating,
Yeah.
selfless action, the path of devotion.
Yes,
But Chapter 9 goes even further.
it does.
Krishna starts to reveal aspects of his universal form.
He does.
He uses these incredible metaphors to describe his presence in the world.
Yes.
It's almost poetic, like in text 24.
Where he says, of priests, O Arjuna, know me to be the chief Brihaspati, the lord of devotion, of generals. I am Skanda, the lord of war and of bodies of water. I am the ocean.
Wow.
It's like he's saying, look, I'm everywhere. I'm in the power of devotion, the strength of a leader, the immensity of the sea.
Exactly. It's a way of expanding our awareness of the divine. It's not just some distant abstract force.
Right.
It's woven into the fabric of existence.
Yeah, I love that. I'm struck by the power of these metaphors.
Yeah,
They make this concept of the divine feel more accessible.
they do.
It's easier to connect with the idea of the divine being present in the ocean
Yeah.
or in the qualities of a great leader.
Right. Metaphors have that power.
Yes.
They can bridge the gap between these abstract concepts and our concrete experiences.
Now, the Gita takes kind of a dramatic turn here, doesn't it?
It does.
Arjuna actually gets to witness Krishna's universal form
Yeah, firsthand.
firsthand.
It's described as one of the most awe-inspiring scenes in spiritual literature. Krishna's form is infinite. It contains countless universes within himself.
And it says Arjuna sees all beings of creation entering Krishna's mouths.
Yeah.
I mean, it must have been both terrifying and magnificent
Yes.
at the same time.
It's too much for Arjuna to handle.
Yeah.
He completely collapses.
Yeah.
He falls to his knees in surrender.
This vision of the universal form, I feel like,
Yeah.
is the culmination of this most confidential knowledge.
It is.
It's a direct experience of the divine's infinite nature,
Right.
something beyond human comprehension.
Yeah. And it reminds us that our human perception is limited.
Yeah.
We can't fully grasp the immensity of the divine.
With our finite minds.
With our finite minds.
Right.
It brings us back to the idea of Maya.
Yes.
That veil of illusion.
Right. We think we see the world so clearly.
Yeah.
But we're only catching glimpses.
Exactly. And the Gita suggests that the path to overcoming this illusion, to realizing our true nature, involves understanding the 3 gunas, those forces that bind us to the material world.
Right.
In text 8, Krishna explains, O son of Parata, the mode of ignorance causes the delusion of all living entities. The result of this mode is madness, indolence, and sleep, which binds the conditioned soul.
So he's highlighting tamas here.
Yes.
The mode of ignorance.
The mode of ignorance.
It's like being stuck in a fog.
Yeah.
Where you can't see clearly and you're just stumbling around.
Perfect analogy.
And then he goes on to describe the fruits or consequences of acting from each of the gunas.
Right.
In text 16, he says, by acting in the mode of goodness, one becomes purified. Works done in the mode of passion result in distress, and actions performed in the mode of ignorance result in foolishness. So our actions have consequences.
They do.
And the quality of those consequences really depends on the guna that's driving our actions.
Exactly.
If we act from goodness, from sattva,
right,
it leads to purity and clarity.
Yeah.
But if we're driven by passion, by rajas, it often leads to suffering and dissatisfaction. And actions fueled by ignorance, by tamas,
right,
well, they just create more confusion and delusion.
It's like a feedback loop.
Yeah.
The more we act from a particular guna, the more we strengthen that guna within us.
So that's why self-awareness is so important.
Absolutely.
You know, we need to recognize which gunas are dominating our lives.
Yeah.
And make conscious choices.
Right.
That cultivate more sattva.
More goodness.
More goodness and clarity.
Absolutely. This confidential knowledge isn't just some mystical revelation.
Right.
It's about understanding the forces that shape our experiences and making choices that lead to liberation from those forces.
So it's not enough to just have a glimpse of the divine.
Right.
Like Arjuna did.
Right.
We have to understand how our own minds and actions are contributing to our experience of the world.
Exactly. The Gita is a call to action, to take responsibility for our inner state and to make conscious choices that align with our spiritual goals.
So much to process.
It is a lot.
How do we even begin to integrate this confidential knowledge into our daily lives?
That's a great question, and I think that's what we need to unpack in our final segment.
Okay.
You know, we've explored the depths of this chapter, but how do we bring it back to the surface?
Right.
Back to our everyday reality?
Okay, let's do it. We're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into Chapter 9.
The most confidential knowledge.
Yeah, you know, after that vision of Krishna's universal form, you'd think that would be the climax of the chapter.
Yeah.
But it doesn't end there.
Right.
It's like Krishna is giving Arjuna, and by extension, all of us, a step-by-step guide for how to walk this path.
It's true. Chapter 9 goes on to offer some really practical advice.
Right, so one of the things that Krishna emphasizes is mental discipline.
Right.
In text 4, he explains that a person is said to have attained to yoga when having renounced all material desires. He neither acts for sense gratification nor engages in fruitive activities.
Okay.
I mean, in our modern world, renouncing all material desires.
Yeah.
Seems pretty impossible.
Right. It's a challenge for sure.
We're bombarded with temptations, you know, new gadgets, social media, that constant drive for success.
Right.
How do we even begin to detach from all of that?
Yeah, I don't think the message here is about, you know, living as an ascetic, completely detached from the world. Yeah. It's more about shifting our focus. Instead of looking for fulfillment from those external things, we start to cultivate that inner contentment. You know, that sense of peace that doesn't depend on outside circumstances.
So it's not about suppressing desires altogether, but maybe transforming them.
I think so.
Like understanding where they're coming from and finding a deeper source of fulfillment.
Exactly, because ultimately, true happiness doesn't come from accumulating more things or achieving a certain status. It comes from within.
Okay, but how do we cultivate that inner strength? You know, that ability to resist those tempting distractions.
Yeah, right. Well, Krishna actually offers some specific practices in this chapter.
Okay.
One of them is meditation. In text 26, he says, "And of all yogis, the one with great faith who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me. He is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion."
So just by having faith in Krishna and remembering him, you can become a great yogi.
It seems that way.
It's pretty encouraging, actually.
It is encouraging. It really highlights the power of bhakti yoga, the path of devotion. You know, by focusing our minds on the divine, we naturally weaken the grip of those material desires.
Right. It's like shifting our attention.
Exactly.
You know that saying where your attention goes, energy flows?
Yes.
If we're constantly dwelling on what we don't have, those cravings just get stronger.
Right.
But if we can redirect our attention towards something higher, something more meaningful, those cravings start to lose their power.
Absolutely. It's about cultivating a different kind of hunger. A hunger for spiritual connection, for inner peace, for that which truly nourishes our soul.
I'm feeling that.
Yeah.
But I have to admit, sometimes it does feel like an uphill battle.
Yeah.
You know, those material desires are so ingrained, so habitual.
For sure.
Any tips for staying on track?
Well, I think text 33 speaks to that.
Okay.
Krishna says, "Those who are not faithful on the path of devotional service cannot attain me, O conqueror of foes, but return to birth and death in this material world."
So even when we stumble, even when we lose our way, we just keep coming back to that face, to that remembrance of the divine.
Right. It's about perseverance.
Yeah.
You know, the spiritual path isn't a linear journey. There will be ups and downs, moments of clarity and moments of confusion. The important thing is to keep moving forward, to keep that flame of aspiration alive.
Well, this has been such a rich and thought-provoking exploration of most confidential knowledge.
Yeah.
As we wrap up, what would you say is the most important takeaway for our listeners today?
I think Chapter 9 ultimately reminds us that self-realization isn't some distant, unattainable goal reserved for a select few.
Right.
It's a journey that we can all embark on.
Yeah.
Right here, right now, by cultivating faith.
Right.
Practicing mental discipline, and aligning our actions with our deepest spiritual aspirations.
Beautifully said. And as Krishna reminds us, that path of devotion, of remembering the divine, is always open to us.
It is.
Thank you so much for joining us on this journey through Chapter 9 of the Bhagavad Gita.
It was a pleasure.
We hope you found it as enriching as we did. And don't forget to subscribe to the Heart Sutra channel for more explorations of ancient wisdom and its relevance in our modern lives.
Yes.
Hit that like button and share this episode with your friends who are also on a path of self-discovery.
Please do.
Until next time, may your journey be filled with peace, clarity, and joy.